What is going on, home skillet biscuits? Stratus Steel City, it's Jawbreaker the Poodle, and this is episode 3 of Doggo Toys. And today, we'll be discussing this bad boy right here. Bam! The SEGA Game Gear.
So the SEGA Game Gear came out on October 6, 1990 in Japan, and then was released in April of 1991 in the United States. Codenamed Project Mercury during its development, the Game Gear was an 8-bit handheld console meant to compete with Nintendo's Game Boy. It was actually the second handheld console to come out that had color and a backlit screen, with the first being the Atari Lynx.
Oh, we back. So yeah, while the handheld console was a good idea by SEGA, it did have its flaws. First off, it had a demanding price tag of $150 when it first dropped, as opposed to the regular Game Boy that was only about $90. So imagine you've been good lately, you got straight A's, your report card, or your birthday's coming, Christmas is coming, whatever. And your parents are over at Kmart, Toys R Us, whatever, and they're trying to figure out whether they should get you the Game Boy or the Game Gear. Well, which do you think they're gonna get you? I'll give you a hint. It ain't the Game Gear.
Also, this mammoth of a handheld console is heavy. Just look! 1.2 pounds? Friggin' fat ass. It barely counts as a handheld considering its weight and size. I mean, look at this compared to the Nintendo Switch and the Switch Lite. We've definitely come a long way as far as handheld consoles go. Also, this thing takes not 2, not 4, but 6 AA batteries. Alternatively, you can use a DC adapter, but seriously? 6 AA's? That's more than enough to power both my Game Boy Colors plus my Checky camera.
Even the original Game Boy only took 4 batteries, so why did the Game Gear take 6? I don't know, maybe it's because the Game Gear has color, but even then the Game Boy Color has color obviously, and it still took 2 batteries. But then I guess you could also say because the Game Gear had the backlit screen. But then, what about the Game Boy Light, or the Light Boy, or whatever it was called? That still only took 2 batteries. There's really no explanation. Now, SEGA did make plans to make a 16-bit successor to the Game Gear, but it just never ended up happening, and instead we got the SEGA Nomad, which essentially was a handheld SEGA console where you could insert your Genesis cartridges in. Perhaps a video for another time. So there's a grand total of 364 or 365 games for the console, and out of all those, I have a whopping total of 4. Yeah, just 4. You want to know what else? Out of those 364 or 365 games, only 10 of them are Sonic games. 13 if you include Tails Adventure, Tails Sky Patrol, and Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine.
Alright, so the games! Land of Illusion starring Mickey Mouse is a fun, colorful platform with 14 different stages, where you're on an adventure to retrieve a magic crystal that's been stolen from the village. Mickey can defeat enemies by throwing objects at them such as rocks, apples, and even treasure chests that contain health. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on Game Gear was released alongside the Sega Genesis version, which has different levels and a separate plot. Both debuted Miles Tails Prower, although he's not a playable character in the Game Gear version. Sonic Chaos, on the other hand, allows you to choose to play as either Sonic or Tails, and is the first game where you can fly as Tails. On the other hand, Sonic can use these cool rocket boots to get him across levels faster.
Much like the Game Boy, the Game Gear had a whole bunch of different accessories, such as the super wide lens. And it just snaps on onto the console. Best I could do it. With fursuit paws on. I think I got it though. You just snap the plastic part on top, and there's a little bar that comes down, if I could get it. And it just snaps underneath. It's much easier without fursuit paws, like I said. I got it though. So look at this. As if it wasn't clunky enough.
The super wide lens, while being a good idea, it has its issues. Look, it cuts off part of the screen. I can't even see the top part of the title screen. And depending on what game you're playing, that could be a huge problem. And in Sonic, you won't be able to see your rings, the time, or the score. On top of that, every time you want to play another game, you're going to have to take the lens off because it clips right over where the cartridge goes. As far as magnifying the screen for you to see better, I don't know, I guess it kinda works. What do you think?
And then there's also the TV tuner. What? Thought I was gonna show y'all one? Look, I'm not an angry video game nerd. I don't have that kind of money, alright? So I don't know what to tell y'all. Anywho, if you guys have the TV tuner, like I don't, you were able to watch TV on your friggin' Game Gear. That's wild. Or you could even hook up your VCR or your camcorder to it and watch stuff on there. Even today with the proper modding, and there's tutorials for it on the internet, you can play your PlayStation 4 games on it, or you can even just turn it into a smart TV. It's still useful. And there were a bunch of other accessories too, like the Master Gear converter. It was simply an adapter you put into your Game Gear, and then you could play Master System games on it. Why buy both consoles when you got both in one? And then there was the cleaning gear, which was just a cartridge you could use to clean out your console and your cartridges. Keep them nice and fresh. Since battery life was such a big issue with the Game Gear, SEGA eventually came out with the rechargeable battery pack. Now it was this weird looking doodad that had the cylinder piece on it, and then there were the cords. One end would go into the Game Gear, and then one end would go into the wall. So you charge it up, and then you're supposed to take the cylinder part and hook it onto your belt loop. But what if you're not wearing a belt? What if you're not wearing pants? So imagine being a little girl in the 90s and you're wearing your schoolgirl uniform, or you're just wearing a dress or a skirt. What do you do with it then? You just got to let it dangle next to your Game Gear, and then it's going to get damaged based off anything it swings into. And this thing went for $50. That was back in the 90s. From inflation, that's floating around, what, $100 now? That'll really piss your parents off. Due to the awkwardness of the rechargeable battery pack, SEGA tried again and came out with the Power Pack. Now this one instead was a little device that screwed, well not little at all really, but it screwed to the back of your Game Gear. And that way you never even had to take it off because it came with an AC adapter, and you would just plug it into the wall and charge it, and you could play for an average about 8 hours, as opposed to the 5.5 you would get on average from just the 6 batteries. I'll give kudos to SEGA on that one. I remember when I was a kid and I had my Game Boy Color, I used to be so desperate for batteries all the time. I would snatch them out of the TV remotes around the house. My dad used to get so pissed. And as if that wasn't enough, they came out with a solar-powered version, the Solar Gear. So then you get to play this bad boy by Unleash the Power of the Sun, like it's Sunny D or something.
And then on October 6, 2020, the Game Gear's 30th anniversary, they came out with the Game Gear Micro. It comes in 4 different colors and 4 different games on each one, but they go for $50 each. So if you want all 16 games, you'd have to spend $200 plus tax and shipping depending on where and how you get it. At least if it had a cartridge slot, it'd be more worth your while. I guess just seeing that SEGA logo is enough to convince the whacked out fans to buy anything they put out. Okay, got one of each color, looks good, and check out. Unfortunately for Sega, the Game Gear only sold roughly 11 million units, while the Game Boy smoked them at a whopping 118.7 million. That beats the Game Gear 10 times over. This just goes to show you that at the end of the day, it's not flashy features such as color and backlights that make a console good, as the Game Boy wasn't even discontinued until 2003. It had a 14-year lifespan. That's crazy.
Despite not being remembered as one of Sega's best, it still outperformed the Dreamcast, which only sold a little over 9 million units. And it really outsold the Sega 32X, which only sold about 800,000 units. I mean, yeah, I know that it's only an attachment for the Sega Genesis, but who cares? It even did better than the Atari Lynx, which only sold about 3 million units.
In the end, between the bulkiness of the Game Gear handheld console, the poor battery life, and the demanding price tag, it just couldn't keep up. And on April 30th, 1997, it just disappeared.
Hey! Now I got the Game Gear at the exchange for $20. I got a little bit on the cheap side because it had some broken pixels, but it plays just perfectly. And then I got the super wide lens for $10, also at the exchange, a different location, but still the exchange. And then each of the games I spent $3 on. So yeah, overall I am happy with this console. Yeah, it has its flaws, but I think there's still good games on it, and I'm a Sega fanatic, so I'm biased, I admit it. Sorry, not sorry. I do plan to get more games for it, I want to expand my collection. After all, I do love collecting retro stuff. You know, just the nostalgia, you know. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this video. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do for episode 4 of Doggo Toys. Still up in the air about it. I got a couple of ideas, but you guys will know when you find out. So anyway, make sure to paw that like button, subscribe, leave a comment, and hit that notification bell. And until next time, Jawbreaker out, and stay savage.
One night I'm chillin', next night I'm mad. One night I'm feeling, next night I'm sad.